Well, I thought I'd spend some time with you this afternoon and show you some of the tools that I use for doing the bodies. And excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. Okay, so I'm going to move it a little bit closer because yesterday I started to show you the tools and I forgot. So here they are. These I use for shaping. So I have a whole set of flower tools and they're quite useful. Just the plastic ones are fine. And then these are the like little flat El Cheapos that you can buy online. And I think they are actually diamond files. And this one is very useful. It's a kind of a shaped one. So I would just get myself a selection. There is actually one here, not that one, this one. It's got a rounded back on it. Can't actually see, oh there it is. It's a little bit rounded along here. So that's quite useful for getting in the backs of fingers and places like that. But you just need a selection. So even the old emery board works, but you need to kind of get yourself a pile of things. And then I have an X-Acto set. This is a big one, but I do have one with very, very fine blades as well. And then this is my little Dremel. Well, it's not actually a Dremel, but it's called XU1, I think it is. And it came in a little case like that with a whole lot of little stones and different collets and things like that. And it was $18. And it was at Bunnings. I don't know if you all have Bunnings, but that's where I got it. And it's not as strong as the big Dremel, so that's why I like it for these bodies. And I bought myself a few little drill bits just online here and there, and they are nice little sharp, fine diamond bits. Now, the collets that come with this are in different sizes. So, depending on what drill bit you use, depends on what you're going to do with that. So, I think that's a number one tool. And the files are really important. And I've put a sanding pad up there for you to see. That is just something I bought online, but the Annie Sloan ones are really good. And the sandpaper that doesn't clog up, that's a white one. There are different types of sandpaper, and that's a non-clogging sandpaper. So for the liquid bodies, that's actually quite important. And then I thought I'd put the sealers, and so that's the Duncan Clear Gloss, and that's the Jo Sonia's Purpose Sealer, which ends up as a very, very nice varnish. And that is the Soft Touch, the little bottle there. So this afternoon I've had a wee bit of a conundrum, I would say, because the body didn't turn out the right colour and the paint didn't really work that well. Well, it wasn't a paint, it was actually a stain. And I should have known, because a stain is a much thinner type of thing, and it didn't give the coverage that I was looking for. So this morning I started again, and I've done 2 more coats of the folk art, and I've put them up there at the back. And what I did is I mixed the multi-surface one, which is the bisque, and I put 2 or 3 little kebab sticks full of the yellow ochre into that colour. and that's the result, and it's just about a perfect match with the old pieces of wood. So, and I also forgot to tell you yesterday that the Galilea gesso is a Winsor & Newton one. So if you go to an art shop, you'll find that amongst the art goodies. So I've actually got some other things to share with you, but the stand that is coming, which is out in the shed at the moment, needs a stand, and he might be just bringing it in. Are you? No.
No.
You're not?
I'll put it up. I have to wait for the glue sets.
Oh, you have to wait for the glue to set. Oh, well, it'll be tomorrow then, won't it?
And for me to be paid.
And for you to be paid?
Yeah.
It'll be dinner. You'll be lucky. Okay. So he often comes in and says, is it stewed lace? Is it the dye pot? Or what is it? It's quite a joke in our house. So I'll just go around here and I'll just show you a couple of things. So Hannah's waiting for her body to be all finished, and there was already a plate there with her and her neck connections, but I discovered inside her what a terrible looking lot of stuff that she's got for her eyes to be stuck in with. I don't know what concoction that is, but it's not nice, and I'm not about to try and take it out. So you make some very big discoveries when you're doing these antique dolls. Some very odd things. And last night I made another wig stand because I've got some dolls that are getting ready for these liquichet bodies, and 4 of them haven't got wigs on, and so I thought I'd better get that done before I start. Now this is actually Lincoln wool, and it is absolutely beautiful. Look at the length of that. Grown here in New Zealand, it's beautiful. And I have a bit of a story about how I dye the mohair, and I dyed this the same way because I collect plants, plant vegetation, and keep them in bags, and then I use them for dye. And this is a beautiful eucalyptus leaf that used to grow up at Gulf Harbour. There were some beautiful big trees, and Maureen would be seen grabbing a few branches and putting them in a boot and off home to do some dyeing. And it's an interesting thing because not every plant gives you the same dye. So it depends on where they're growing and what the minerals are that that plant is taking up, and the salt. And maybe it was Gulf Harbour because we were right by the sea, but this particular lot of trees was just amazing. And I've still got quite a few leaves, and every now and then we have a trip up there and I get some more. But this Lincoln has been probably, well, at least since we've been here, and that's 10 years. And the colour is just beautiful, and it's colour fast. So if you people in Australia were to try dyeing with your eucalyptus leaves, you would find that you're going to get different variations of blonde. And you just use a little bit of white vinegar and a little bit of salt at the end. I'm going to do another kind of tutorial on dyeing mohair, which some of you might be interested in. So this is colour fast, and as I said, it's lasted quite a long time. So I hope you're going to enjoy that. So I'll leave you till tomorrow because this body is still tacky and it's got to have a layer of varnish put over it. So I'll probably do the varnishing tonight, later tonight, so that I can go on with the stringing. And if you people want to make a stand like this, if you're going to follow the body tutorials, you probably need to have something to put them onto, because it's just a nightmare. You're holding things up and you think, where am I going to hang that? And it sometimes needs to be done several times. So I've come up with, and I'll show you what I've done so far. My husband's made a stand for this. Now this was a very pretty, I'll just shift the dial. I don't want that hitting hammer, so I'll just put that there. Now this was a very pretty little Tiffany shade that I'd made, thinking I was going to use it for half dolls, but I decided it would be better for this. And this was a tape that I had hanging up in my cupboard here, and I bought it at one of those emporium places, cheap as chips, and it's got kind of metal hooks on it, and it's on very thick tape. Now I've looked it up this afternoon, and you can still buy something similar on that place that begins with T. I've seen it there this afternoon. So what I did is I stitched this over and over and over all the way round, and it is going to go on a stand with another big piece of wood like the other one. And what you'll be able to do is just hang that like that. So with the two types, you could probably even stick another stick through here, like if you had a wider piece of doweling across there and it was up higher, you'd be able to support a body. But it needs to be quite wide, otherwise the body hangs down in the wrong place. And with this one here, it actually sticks out there quite a bit and it's supported. So depending on what lampshade you've got, but I would be looking around the op shops, because you just might find something really special, and you can all share what you've done. And Porcelain Petticoats Group would love to know how you've made these, because somebody might come up with something even better. And I've even thought about putting a polystyrene ball in here and poking things through. And I've thought of that paper clay, making a ball and poking it in the top and poking the sticks through it and leaving them there, but you wouldn't be able to shift them. You'd have to have that there permanently. But you could do that. And this here needs to support the dowel that you're going to put in there. This is quite big, and I've got some lovely pieces of wood turning that my dad had done years ago. We wondered what we were going to use them for, and I've found another use. So I would probably use a couple of washers or something like that at the top to make sure that this is going to fit, and you could screw it down or whatever you're going to, how you're going to attach it. Because there's some little tacks holes there right in the bottom that you could attach to a piece of wood quite easily. So it wouldn't need to be round. You could just have a square piece of wood and just tack it to that. It wouldn't hurt. So I think it's quite brilliant. I'm quite pleased with it. So yes, and painting today, compared to the old stick trick, which you get a little hand and it's sticking out there like that, it's not very good, and I had to have sticks that were on an angle in the plaster Paris, and it wasn't that successful. And when you start doing the liquid crochet bodies, you'll find out just how important having this is, because it kind of stops the little pieces from all getting confused and hitting each other, because if the paint gets wet and it hits up against another one, or it drops down and falls on something else, it's really frustrating. So, and of course all the pieces of the body are actually all different shapes, like this piece here and this piece here are different, so you actually have to find a way of attaching that. And so I have reels of wire, and I found this in my drawer, which I thought I'd share. These are different copper wires. I've got thin copper wire for tying bodies pieces on if you want to use wire, and I bought these as just extras because I thought they might do for armatures or something like that. Quite soft and they bend, but you could make hooks that are going to hang these things up. So and once you've made a few of them, you'd have them there for ever. So yeah, the other sort of stuff is aluminium wire. It's softer, but ordinary wire is okay, but it doesn't bend and it's not as malleable as what the soft copper ones are. And sometimes the liquid crochet, you have to be very careful with it because you don't want to damage it. Now, liquid crochet is actually quite interesting. It's different to an antique body in the fact that it hardens with age. So when you first make a liquid crochet body, it takes several days for it to harden up. And I don't like to start scraping at it and poking at it and getting it out of shape, because that can happen very easily. So if you've got a place to dry it in some polystyrene boxes with batting or something like that in it, and in a dry place, it will dry very quickly. If you leave it too long, it will dry and it won't actually be of any use to you. You won't be able to do much with it because it gets too hard. But I've got some ways of using tools that get those off, and one of them is a foot rasp. So if you see any cheap foot rasps around, those ones are sort of handle about that big with a little roundy bit on it, those are good for doing the side seams. It just takes it off in one hit. So I'll leave you there for the afternoon, and tomorrow you might see a little bit more of this. Believe me, it took quite some doing, because I had to take with the pliers to pull off the glue and the stuff that I had round on the frame, and it had really stuck there. Then I hand sewed this all with a nice thick cotton, and I just did an overstitch. I was thinking about binding it with like a hemp twine or something. My husband said, if you do that, I'm going to have trouble with this part in here. So I decided just to leave it like that, because that will support quite a decent way. So something like a double quilting thread should hold that. You could glue it if you wanted to, but I didn't want to have glue all over my hands while I was sewing. So, and I'm not very fond of glue guns because, I don't know, they just seem to come off in the end and you end up with something that's not very good. I did use a tiny bit of tiger glue. I think it was there. I've got to put a bit more on, because there was a little fray little bit, and I thought I'll just chop that off. So I only got one hook on it, and you guessed it, I got round to here and I had a little piece that big that fitted in that bit, so I had to glue it. but I know where it is and I probably won't hang anything much on it. So you'll see this very fancy hanger in my movies or videos, and you too can go off to the op shop now and start searching for some. I've got 2 or 3 different shaped light frames, but we were talking about it and we think that if you went too wide with the thing on the top, it might topple over. So you'd have to have quite a big piece of timber in here to support it. So I've got something about that big a dowel that's been wood turned. So, and the other thing I looked at was a heavy candlestick. You've got an old candelabra that's got a heavy base. I noticed one I've got out there, this piece screws off, and I tried it on here and it actually worked. So if you've got an old candelabra that you could stick this on, that might work, especially if it's up about that high. So think on. Some of you might come up with some great ideas. Doll making has never been so much fun. Okay, see you tomorrow. Right, girls, we're off to have some tea, are we? I think Dad will be waiting for his dinner. It isn't too